Welcome to the White House. So my name is Roy Austin, and I am Deputy Assistant to the President for the Office of Urban Affairs, Justice, and Opportunity. And if you look in your programs, you're going to see the name Cecilia Munoz. I am not Cecilia Munoz. If you knew Cecilia Munoz, you'd know that for certain because she is a petite Latina, which I am not, but I am her understudy. And I'm here today in my role as part of the President's team working every day to make sure that Americans with disabilities are fully included in the promise of our democracy. The President believes that if you're willing to work hard, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, who you love, the gender you identify with, whether you're young or old, rich or poor, or a person with a disability, you can make it here in America if you're willing to try. I'm also here as an admirer of the arts and musical theater. I grew up in State College, Pennsylvania, and my mom worked at something called the Eisenhower Auditorium, where I had the chance as a young person to see The Wiz and to see Alvin Ailey Dance Theater and a number of other really amazing shows. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about my own artistic skills. As a middle schooler, I had the opportunity to perform in a show about America, and to this day I remember the song and I can recite all 50 states because of my role in musical theater. So Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, I'll stop there. But in the words of one of the songs written by some of our guests here today, I believe. I believe in the power of the arts and musical theater to capture the hearts and minds of society, influencing policy and politics, both as a reflection of our changing times and a look at what we could be. And the musical has proven that power again and again, protesting segregation with Hairspray, building a democracy with Hamilton, standing for peace with Hair, not this Hair, and even though speaking against gender discrimination with Annie, Get Your Gun. The musical is more powerful than we often realize. But there are a lot of folks here today who I don't need to tell this to, including, and let me welcome them to the White House, Deaf West Theater and the Broadway cast of Spring Awakening. So to some, a musical in American Sign Language would seem like an improbability, but you see it as an inevitability. You have opened up a new corner of the sky, to quote yet another great musical. And we consider you part of our work here to promote diversity and inclusion for Americans with disabilities. Now, more than 50 million Americans, nearly 1 in 5, has a disability. Americans with disabilities are integral members of our families, our communities, and our country. Their contributions make America a better place each and every day. That is why, since day one, this president has worked to increase access to opportunity for all people. Over the past 6 years, we have worked alongside the disability community to protect Americans with disabilities from discrimination and to expand public and private employment opportunities and increase their financial independence. We have made government more inclusive at all levels and have improved educational outcomes for people of all ages with disabilities and have celebrated historic milestones. This year, we rang in the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act here in the East Wing of the White House, where the President introduced a series of new actions aimed at expanding opportunities for Americans with disabilities in employment, education, healthcare, housing, transportation, and technology. And yet, we all know there's a lot of work to do. And as of this moment, we have 429 days to do it. But the future is bright because of people like you all, chipping away at outdated notions, creating opportunities and making a hat where there was never a hat. As we continue to follow the drumbeat of justice, we are grateful for your partnership in this effort, and we look forward to working with you to ensure that every American in this country can attain their full potential. And now, I'll kick it to Greg Reiner, Director of Theater and Musical Theater for the National Endowment of the Arts, and our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roy. Is this on? Thank you so much, Roy. There we go. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here at the White House today with not only this accomplished group of panelists, but of course the brilliant cast of Deaf West Theater's Spring Awakening, which the NEA actually funded in its initial production in a 99-seat theater in Los Angeles, and which has now made its way all the way to Broadway. You can applaud that. At the National Endowment for the Arts, one of our core beliefs is that the arts are for everyone. And we don't just mean audiences, we also mean artists. So today we are going to talk about the amazing opportunities that are available to artists with disabilities, as well as some of the challenges. Before I get into that, I also just want to give an acknowledgement to my colleague, Beth Bienvenu, who's here, who's our Director of Accessibility, who makes so much of it possible, what we do at the endowment. Today's also an especially apt day for our discussion, as it is #LoveTheater Day, which is an international celebration of theater. So we're going to talk about all of the arts today, but we have to give a special shout out to theater. And in order to get right into what I hope will be an exciting discussion, I'm going to make the intros brief and then direct you all to learn more about our panelists' biographies online after the event. And in your programs, you all have links to their social media handles. First, we have Michelle Banks, who is a native of Washington, D.C. She's an award-winning actress, writer, director, producer, choreographer, motivational speaker, and teacher. It's a lot. She's the founder of Onks Theater Company in New York City, the first deaf theater in the United States for people of color. To learn more about Michelle and her one-woman show, Reflections of a Black Deaf Woman, check out our website, michellebanks.com. We're also joined by Eric Grace, who's a recent graduate of the University of West Georgia. Currently, he is holding an acting and directing apprenticeship at the Atlanta Theater Actors Express, where he's about to make his professional debut in one of my favorites, the musical Sweeney Todd. His previous roles have included Sally Bowles in Cabaret, Papa Gay in Once on This Island, and The Tin Man and the Wiz. And if you're a fanboy like I am, you may recognize him from his appearances as a zombie on The Walking Dead. And you can find out more about his work at his website, ericgrace.wix.com/ericgrace. One of our panelists is not here, Jason De Silva, so he may join us in the middle, and I will introduce him when he comes in. Helena Berger is president and CEO of the American Association of People with Disabilities. She's been a disability rights activist for over 25 years and currently serves as co-chair of the Disability Equality Index Advisory Committee, and recently completed a 4-year term on the Comcast and NBC Universal Joint Diversity Council. And finally, Valerie Jensen, to my left, is the founder and executive director of the Prospector Theater, which is a nonprofit movie theater that provides meaningful employment to people with disabilities through the operation of a premium first-run movie theater. So we're going to dive right in now, and I hope this will be a great discussion. I just want to point out, so this month's American Theater Magazine, which has some of our wonderful cast members on the cover, really did a deep, you can applaud them. They did a deep dive into the topic of access and ability in the theater, and I'm going to share a brief quote from a piece that the artist Brad Rothbart wrote to kick off our discussion. It's a little provocative, so I'll just kick it right off to you. And the quote is, 25 years ago, the disability community might have been happy with a seat at the table, but as we've been marginalized and ignored, discontent has grown. We don't want a seat at the table anymore. We don't even want the table. We want to run the restaurant. So let me ask you, what do you want your restaurant to look like? And well, we have microphones. Just go ahead and jump in, whoever wants to go first.
Well, my restaurant is in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and so through the operation of the movie theater, people with disabilities are very talented. They're very able. They don't want to be told, great job, great job. They really want to work. They want feedback. They want to come in, and they want to sparkle, and they really want to shine. And the expectations for people with disabilities needs to be held very, very high. So when you open the restaurant needs to have an excellent product, excellent customer service, and that's what everybody should expect from a workforce of people with disabilities. 70% of our disabilities at the Prospector Theater have disabilities out of 100 employees. Integrative, cooperative work environment, that's really what we need to do.
I think that's a good point. I think that one of the important things about being a disabled actor or director or anything that you're doing in theater or film or television or any sort of art form is that it's important that we are seen as an and not a but. You know, it's like, oh, they're an okay singer, they're an okay dancer, they're an okay writer, but they're disabled, so let's give them everything. You know, I think people with disabilities are looking to honestly work and to be a strong force and to be competitive and to make people need us, not just want us.
Michelle?
I would want people to change their perspective, to look at artists with disabilities, whether we are deaf actors, playwrights, directors, that we have a message. And rather than holding that message back, we should be able to express that message and share it with the world so that the world can see that we are all equal, that we have those connections.
Sorry, we have this thing in the theater called upstaging, so I apologize, Michelle.
We want the world to know that we are here, that we exist, that we are ready, that we have talent, and everything that we have to give is out there to be given. So I think the opportunity to really show who we are as artists with disabilities.
You know, it does remind me of a quote from a recent Emmy-winning actress in her speech who said that the only difference is not ability, but opportunity. So I think that's really important for us to remember. And I do want to welcome our final panelist, Jason Da Silva, who is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and spokesperson for the disability community and the founder of the nonprofit AXS Lab. He's completed 4 short films, 2 feature films. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2005 and began a 7-year journey of making When I Walk, which is available to view on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful film. He also has an amazing website called axsmap.com, which is an interactive guide to accessible places. So welcome, Jason. Helena, do you want to jump on that last question and then move on?
Sure. I think from my perspective, and I agree with everything that was said, I think that the restaurant being run by people with disabilities would not be anything thought to be unusual, that it would be very commonplace. I think people today still have a hard time imagining people taking the lead, people with disabilities. We say, you know, just invite us, you know, nothing about us without us, which is still very true. But I think if we had a restaurant that was led by people with disabilities and everybody thought that's the norm, then I think you know, our civil rights movement has really accomplished something deep and major, and really has started to change the mindset of people in society.
Great. So given our focus today is on young people who are aspiring artists, I want to ask all of you, what guidance do you have for students who are at or close to the graduation age for making the transition from school to the workforce or college and creating a support system for themselves as disabled artists as they move out of the school, where there's those support systems in place like the IEP that may not be available in the outside world as readily?
I would say the 2 ones I would say is just do you. So do what you do best, and don't be afraid to give your message, I would say.
I would also say this is where I think like apprenticeships come in, having a mentor or mentors, having internships, I think are all going to be critical to ensuring that you have a successful career path. There are programs that are now happening on the state level that is going to help around entrepreneurial training and financial literacy, and I think you know, for anybody who's looking to enter the work world, I think all of those things could be very beneficial in having, again, a successful career path.
I agree. I think that it's very important to go to things like college, or university, or apprenticeship, because I think that a lot of times people in the arts are not so much not willing to bring in people with disabilities, but are afraid to. because they don't know exactly if they're capable of taking on, and I don't want to say challenge, but taking on something different. And I think with going to college and going to and doing apprenticeships like I'm doing at Actors Express, I think that it's allowed me so many opportunities to express myself artistically without the worry of, are they gonna hire me because I'm a double leg amputee, you know? And I walk out with a resume. And so people can go, oh, well, you've done this. Well, you know, maybe I'm willing to, you know, let you be a part of this project.
I'm very concerned about apprenticeships and internships because I've seen people with disabilities go in and work their job and then not receive jobs afterwards. And for the companies just to replace all of those apprentices and interns with the never-ending crop of more people who want to come in and want to apprentice and have, it's just free slave labor. When, as an employer, it's important to me that I pay every single one of my employees and pay them good competitive wages. And it's very important also that though my theater is a nonprofit, we are not a charity. It's very important that everybody who is at my theater is doing a job to the best of their ability, and they are contributing to the business of the theater. And that means that everybody is learning from each other, and we are constantly raising expectations, raising the bar, and we're creating new standards of procedures and operating procedures that are scalable, that are translatable and transferable to other job skills. We have people who come in and they love, love, love music. That's fantastic. We have ushers in our theater. The ushers greet every single one of our audiences. People come in, and it's just like being in a theater back in the golden age of cinema. And we incorporate performance art into the pre-show before we have it. We've got people who are digital artists who are on our production crew. We train everyone. We give them better jobs than they came in with. We give them the tools. We pay them while they're doing it. And finding that meaning and having them accountable for their own success in the workplace is, I think, one of the fundamental foundations of having a successful business, and it can help to combat the 80% unemployment rate of people with disabilities in America. I am thrilled that the White House has called us in today to address this, because in order to even make a dent in that huge unemployment rate, it has to begin at the top. It needs to begin with the President of the United States. It needs to begin with the CEOs. It needs to begin with the presidents of companies. That is the only thing that is going to be a driver of change. And so that I am absolutely thrilled to be here today.
I want to echo those comments. I think there is a value of internship and apprenticeship for the learning perspective. And for aspiring artists, it's really important to get out there and do your homework. Do your research about what's available, what opportunities are out there of all different types. I mean, I think back on my career and I think about the importance of networking. And that was such a focus for me. Staying focused on where I wanted to go, what I wanted to accomplish, and then asking for help to get there, finding the people who could give the kind of advice that I needed, that could teach me the skills that I needed to get where I wanted to go. So really staying on track with your career and keeping that focus.
Helena?
I just wanted to add, just to challenge a little bit about the idea about internships. I think they really are critical. We have actually a number of folks today in the audience who are former AAPD summer interns. We've had over 200 summer interns come through our program, many of them in highly successful positions today. I think the internship really helped them get there. It was one of the avenues to help them get there. I would love it if people who have come through our internship can raise their hand, especially if you're employed in competitive employment. So I mean, again, we see 3 or 4 hands out of this audience. So again, I just don't want to undercut. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it, but I also think there's real value in an internship.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of awareness too, and doing your homework. I think that you're right there. I've heard of numerous internships where the actors and directors and stage managers are just slave labor, like you said, and are there to just do the work of the theater and aren't really getting any real experience. So it's a matter of doing your homework. If you go into an internship or an apprenticeship, make sure that they are valuing you for your work and make sure that they are, some of them actually do pay and some of them don't. The one I'm at actually does not pay, but it pays with the amount of work that we're doing. We are having work written specifically for us by playwrights who are out there in the industry, and we are included in a lot of productions. Like I'm going to be in Sweeney Todd, my first Atlanta, premiere show that I'm doing. So I think it's a matter of finding what fits you and what's right for you.
So let's flip the question on its head a bit, and I'm going to freely admit I borrowed some of these next questions from the great Jackie Lawton, who runs a blog on the TCGcircleblog.org on diversity and inclusion, which is worth checking out online. But just to flip this question on your head, what practical advice or what practical action steps or resources would you recommend to local, regional, or national arts organizations who really want to address the issues of accessibility for artists and administrators and audiences, but maybe don't know what they should be doing as first practical steps? And we'll start with the baseline that because thanks to the 25th anniversary of the ADA, the audience can get in, but that's not always necessarily true for the actors and the artists getting backstage. Please start.
Well, I would reverse engineer it. I would figure out what the desired outcome was. So if we are starting an arts organization or starting this, you see what your desired outcome is, and then you begin and let organically you see who you have in your cast, and you really let that write your own ticket to success. And you discover the reason I have a movie theater. One of the reasons is I love movies. I love movie theaters, and my town, there was no movie theater for 10 miles around my town. So there was a need for a movie theater in my town. I had worked and ran an arts nonprofit for 12 years in my town with people with disabilities, and I wrote musical theater, and I wrote films and directed the films. I knew how much people with disabilities loved the arts. I wanted to include that in, but we needed jobs. We needed consistency. We needed to have that meaningful that kind of meaningful interaction with audiences. So that's why I built what I built. There was a need, I had the supply, and then the demand came. In order to keep accountability and to keep measuring our success, to make sure that our teaching and our training and our operating procedures are working, we look at the box office and we see what our ticket sales are. We look at our concession stand and we see what our per cap is. Our job coaches are people who also work at our theater, and everybody, it's called the Prospector Theater. We refer to everybody who works at our theater as prospects. Everybody identifies at my theater as being a prospect. Nobody has a disability or doesn't have a disability. We are all there together working in this real integrated and competitive workforce. We are all accountable, and that's the reason that we are successful. That's the same advice that I would give to a director in the arts or in any theater company. Do what you are best at.
I would say look at success stories. So look at artists and filmmakers or directors, whatever it is, and look what their background was and what kind of internships they did, and some of the things that they did at the beginning of their careers, and then use that as a way to go forward and offer your own internships to the world.
Hold on to the microphone at that end, because I have a question that I want to start with you on, Jason, which is the role of technology and how that's enabling more access and ability for all artists. But I in particular, when I watched your documentary, and there was a point where you're talking about how you're able to use a different device to edit your film that you didn't have to use your hands to type. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we're at a really exciting time right now. I mean, it's like mind-blowing to me even, that now that I can edit without using my hands, that I can actually see all the places that are accessible around me just by going on my phone or going on the website. These things didn't exist like maybe even 10 years ago. So we're at a really exciting time, and just the advice I would give to people is just be atop of it. So look for it as a person with a disability, or say look to see what's out there and how you as an artist or a filmmaker or even like a technologist, how you can change the face of the world today.
Michelle, you want to jump in on that as well?
Sure. I think about arts organizations like the Onyx Theater, the company that I've been running in New York City for the past 11 years. And when I set up Onyx, it was because I wanted to see more diversity within deaf theater. And I saw that there were people within the community who wanted to participate, but didn't know where to go, didn't know how to get involved in the arts. And so I could definitely see that there was a need out there, and I wanted to figure out a way for my dream as an artist, an actress, a playwright, a director, to work together with that need. So my friend and I started this theater company as part of making the community's dream come true. And so as an arts organization, Onyx provides work opportunities for those with a passion to show their skills for working on stage and backstage. And at the time I established the company, I was very young. I had just finished college. And I was very focused on what the community needed, much more so than what I needed myself. And in looking around, I could see that there was a significant need for the community. And I was able to fit that niche and provide what the community needed. And so I would encourage people to pursue their own dreams and their own accomplishments by doing the work that their communities need. So it's really about pursuing that wider dream.
Great.
I think that that's really the important thing. So focusing on what the community needs. So I started the mapping project called Access Map. And really it was, I didn't think about myself or what I needed, but I really went out there and said, what does the community and other people with disabilities need to access their neighborhoods and their restaurants or stores around them?
Has anyone used the map yet in the room? Curious. All right, well, I'll check it out when you get home. Yes, Eric.
Yeah, and it's great to have, I think we need to be teaching our children about other aspects of the arts besides what they see. You know, so much of what we think of as theater or what we think of as film or what we think of in any other art form is just the actors that we see. But there's so much more to that with directors and writers and people who work on the administrative side of the theater. And I think once we start getting more of those people in the door, it'd be less about understanding and more so about it's already there. You know, and it's of course, why not bring in deaf actors? Of course not, why bring in people who are amputees into projects? And it's great that we're having people like Christine Bruno in Inclusion in the Arts in New York, or Greg Mosgala, who's part of Apothete Theater in New York, and they are fighting to get people included in this art form.
Technology is the best thing that has happened to people with disabilities after the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's really amazing how much power we have in our mobile devices. And here's a gift for everybody here. It's the gift of when you have somebody who's blind and you're able to hand them an iPhone or an iPad, and you're able to learn and teach them that if you take your fingers and if you turn the pad in a clockwise manner, Siri turns on and you've got voice activated talk to text. That is a game changer. That opens up the world. And we have the privilege of being able to teach that technology to a blind man who works with us, and he has the ultimate freedom now. And the world it's limitless. And to show people who are writers, write. To the artists, to the painters, paint. To the actors, act. Do what you are great at. That is what you do. Be that and be you, and then that can help to put them out there.
Helena?
I think this is a really important conversation because I think what we're really talking about is we want to see people either in front of the camera, behind the camera, right in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. And I think what's so important about that is ensuring that we're integrating people into all aspects of the arts and media, because that's what's going to start to change the narrative, right? How people with disabilities are portrayed. You start making sure people with disabilities are in those positions as writers and directors, as well as journalists in front of the camera. I think we could start changing, again, the narrative, the portrayal, the stigmas, the stereotypes, and eventually that will seep into the general societal view, I think, of people with disabilities. Yeah, we've come a long way in 25 years, but we know those attitudinal barriers still exist. And one way to really help break that down is to make sure that people with disabilities are in all of those jobs. And it's incumbent, as was said earlier, that we need to make sure that we start talking to leadership in companies and in government to start changing the dynamics when it comes to employment.
Going backwards and forwards a bit at the same time, given that we have some panelists who went to school both before and after the implementation of the ADA, I wonder if you could talk about the differences in your experiences coming of age, both Michelle and Eric specifically.
Well, I was born in 1990, so I was born around the time that the ADA, so I don't really know, I think, anything different. But I will say that as far as a whole in America, I think that it is, people with disabilities aren't looked upon for what they can't do, and it's more so what they can do, and what we can bring to the table. And I haven't really, in my life, I have to say, I haven't had much fight in that. I've never grown up with someone telling me anything other than I can do whatever I'd like to do, which also can be kind of destructive in a way, because I think that, I can't do everything. I'm not gonna go and be a ballerina, and I'm not gonna be a dancer, but I was able to grow up, luckily with a mother who knew to help me find what it was that I could be good at and what I could be great at, and then be better than everybody else in the room at it. And I think that's what's important, is that we are, and something like having with the ADA is that it's this nice groundwork, but it's really about changing the minds of people and the minds of employers and the minds of those who are hiring people with disabilities.
All right, we're going to pause for just one moment to welcome a guest.
Hi, everyone. This is the beauty of live theater. We have a surprise guest. I would like to introduce you to the Senior Advisor to the President, Valerie Jarrett. Please welcome Ms. Jarrett.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I heard you were in the building, so I thought I would pop in and say hello and congratulate you all as we're celebrating the 40th, which is hard to believe, and I'll tell you why in a minute, anniversary of the Individuals with Disability Education Act. The reason why it's so special to me, as I know it is to all of you, is that my first year of law school, the summer between my first and the second year of law school, which is dating me viciously, I know, the act had not long been passed, and I worked for the Legal Advocacy Service in Chicago. And the Legal Advocacy Service represented people with disabilities in claims that were connected to their disability. And I spent the entire summer learning so much about the challenges in the school system in Chicago and the Chicago suburbs for people with disabilities. And I met some extraordinary parents, and all they wanted was to ensure that their children had the very best education they could have, just like everybody else. And I can remember sitting around kitchen tables with parents who just knew that their children could thrive, and they felt as though the school system was not working for them, it was working against them. And it touched me very deeply and has shaped my passion and commitment to fight for equality ever since. And so I wanted to share that story with you, since this 40th anniversary is very special for me too. Thank you. So I know Roy was here earlier, and he told you a bit about some of our new initiatives celebrating the 25th anniversary of ADA, but I wanted to highlight for you 3 important new initiatives that we're using to celebrate this 40th anniversary. So the first one is this: the Department of Education has issued new guidance that ensures that students with disabilities receive the very same level of instruction as everyone else. It seems simple, but we all know it's so important. That's one. Secondly, we're launching a new website called The Ideas That Work, preparing children and youth with disabilities for success. It's designed to connect teachers and families with the very important resources that we know they need to help improve the instruction and support for the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students with disabilities, as well as struggling learners as they become college ready. So that's number 2, very important as well. Finally, we are releasing a guide and a series of tip sheets for youth with disability and their families so that they can make more informed decisions about their health care, independent living, and finances as they grow into adulthood. So we all know that growing up is challenging. Anyone who's raised a teenager knows that if you don't remember from your own childhood. It's always challenging, whether you have a disability or not. And so much of what the Individuals with Disability Education Act was built upon 40 years ago, and what continues to drive us all today, is the belief that all of our students, and I mean all of our students, regardless of how severe their disability, deserve to learn and grow to their absolute full potential. So we must continuously challenge ourselves, both inside and outside of the classroom, to be creative about fostering these very strong learning environments. And the production of Spring Awakening, and I'm so glad that we have both the original producers and directors and the new producers and directors here. This incredible cast and Broadway show, returned now to Broadway show, does just an amazing job of capturing the normalcy of growing up, whether it's having your first crush or challenges of figuring out what to do with your entire life. Whatever the issue is, it makes it very clear and simple that everybody faces the same challenges, same opportunities, and same dreams. So, as I said, I'm thrilled that it's going back on Broadway. I'm delighted to have everyone here. We welcome you here today. We're delighted to have you all engaging with us. And we're going to celebrate for about a moment, but I hope what you're hearing from the panel and what you'll challenge yourself when you leave here today is to know that we stand on the shoulders of a lot of people who worked so hard to get us to this 40th anniversary. And so now it's up to us to carry the baton the next leg. So thank you all very much and enjoy the day.
Not bad as far as interruptions go. Thank you. How are we on time, if I can ask? Okay, great. So I want to just segue to a couple final questions. One of the questions is, do we need still disability-based theaters, arts organizations, and programs that are specifically focused on any particular disability? And if so, what's gained by having the stories of a certain community told by artists of that community, and what might be lost?
I think they're very important because I don't think there's ever going to be a day where we all get together in the arts community, hold hands and sing Kumbaya, that we need to be inclusive in all categories. And there's always going to be people being left out, not just disabilities, but people, minorities of any sort. And it's something we're fighting for in the theater. So I think it's important that we have specific theaters that are out there who are catering to a specific audience, and also to help spread that across. It's going to help produce more writers and actors and singers and anyone in the arts through those venues.
Michelle, and you have a theater company. Maybe you could address.
Yes. I agree with what Eric was saying. At the same time, I think it's very important to develop partnerships with other theater companies, because you want to engage cultural awareness across the different groups. So for example, we have the deaf community and the non-deaf community, and we want to be able to bridge those so that they can share with each other, so that they are exposed to each other, educated about each other, and increase awareness across all of those groups. So I think it is important to have specific organizations that are designed for specific groups of people, for example, artists with disabilities, but it's also critical that those organizations are engaging with wider audiences.
Great. Anyone else want to add to that before we go on to our last question?
I think that we're at a place where these stories need to be told. I think it's really important that these stories are told and told authentically. So that's why people with disabilities need to be the people who are actually coming up with the stories and telling the stories with heart, humor, courage as well. But they need to be in the forefront of making these stories happen.
Great. And my last question is for all of you as an advocate of disability in the arts. Can you recommend any plays or works of arts or that we should be reading or playwrights and artists we should be following? Other than yourselves, of course.
Actually, yes. There's a theater company in New York that goes by Apothete Theater, and they're working on a work right now with the public called The Penalty. And I'm going to be working with them, and the lead actor is actually a double leg amputee, and it's an evil character, and he gets no redemption. And I think that's nice. It's something. It's important to have all spectrums of characters and all ranges and all challenges for actors of disabilities, and not just what we would find, I guess, typical. I would hate for an audience to come to a show and go, oh, this is going to be, there's going to be deaf actors in this show. I know what this is going to be about. It should be surprising to theatergoers.
My vice president, Chris Mann, is in the front row right over here. Yes, he's got Down syndrome. He's an amazing filmmaker. He's an amazing actor. He is an amazing vice president. And he's not my vice president because he's got Down syndrome. He is my vice president because he rocks at everything that he does. I would encourage everybody to go onto our website or go onto YouTube and look at our Prospector Theater productions. Our production department makes all of our pre-show content. We make amazing public service announcements. We make trailers for movies. We have made some really incredible content. And what we want to show people is that anybody can do what we're doing. Again, like I said before, with your iPhone, you've got more technology at your fingertips right there that empowers anybody. And I'm a fan of inclusive and integrated workforces, and you're gonna see that when you're looking at the content the Prospector Theater has.
Okay, I want to challenge everyone else to go down the line and give us one person we should follow.
Well, I'm going to have to say Jason. Jason is a former APD Paul G. Hearn Emerging Leader awardee. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to say follow Jason.
That's the only rule is you couldn't say yourself, so that's fine.
I think we should follow Jade Bryan. I mean, an amazing filmmaker in New York. He made a film called The Touched Mind. And her film is being shown at festivals and is winning awards and is really incredible. I think it's important that we recognize her work. She'd been working 20 years to really get this off the ground and is really an emerging filmmaker. I think we should definitely keep an eye out for her and her future work as well.
Great, thank you. Jason.
I don't have anybody in. I don't have anybody in particular, but I would encourage everybody, as a documentary filmmaker, I would say there's a lot of nonfiction stories out there on TV and in the theater that people just don't see unless they get out there and see them. So go on to, look at your TV listings, see films on PBS, films on HBO as well. There's just some amazing stories out there. And I prop documentary work and nonfiction work because there's some amazing stories that are sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Great. And we're just going to close out with, before we wrap up, Helena, I understand that you have some exciting news to share about the NBC Universal Tony Coelho scholarships.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm proud to announce that our scholarship program for 2016 has been expanded to award 8 scholarships to students with disabilities that are either second-year associate students or in junior, sophomore, or seniors undergrads or graduate students. There's over $5,600 that gets awarded towards tuition fees for students who are looking to pursue careers in communications and media. Again, it's 8 awards. We were currently giving out 4, so we're excited about 8. We know that's just the beginning. Hopefully we can get other large media companies to follow suit. I think I heard in the audience that CBS may be doing something similar, so I think there's a trend here, but obviously this is just the beginning. But we're excited about that. I would recommend, if you're interested, to check out our website early spring for the application. And just a shout out to Comcast NBCU for their support and recognizing the need and starting to create this talent pool.
Great. I want to thank our wonderful panelists. And now for what we're really excited about, please welcome the amazing cast of Spring Awakening.
Should we have Deafywood, like we have Hollywood, we have Bollywood? Should we have Deafywood?
I don't have a comment on that, I don't think, no. No, I don't. I wouldn't know enough to start something like that, to be fair. I don't know what you would accomplish. I don't know. I don't know.
I know you said that jokingly. I happen to know you, so I know you were saying that jokingly.
No, I don't mean it as a joke. I'm serious. I'm often frustrated because deaf people are left out. I myself am trying to establish a business, and I'm looking at where the opportunity
who's to stop
is.
you? Who's to stop you? You should. If that's what you want to do, you should do it. Go for it. I mean, everyone should do what they want.
We will support you in that. All right, our last question. I know I broke the rule. I said 2, but I'll allow one more. Leah, where's Leah? All right, Leah, you will be on the program for later, right? Yes, you'll be.
Very, very proud. Very.
Marley wanted to make sure that we have Leah, who is a receptionist in the West Ring. He's also known as the POTUS, the President of the United States. So that would mean the First Lady is what? The FLOTUS, the First Lady of the United States. So our dear Leah Katz-Hernandez, she's our ROTUS, Receptionist of the United States. So Leah is here, and she does plan to make a few remarks at the end of the program. This concludes my part, and I'll turn this program back over to Maria or whoever is supposed to be next at this time. Thank you so much. All of you all were awesome. Thank you.
possible just from our company. I'd love to thank our stage managers and our press team and our bus drivers and our cast, our writers, everyone who set this up here at the White House, the stage crew here, as well as everyone moderating the panels. Our last song is called The Song of Purple Summer, and it is the closing number from Spring Awakening.
A mother
year and a half. The group here, some of us knew sign language before we started, some of us have learned sign language along the way, and you see the incredible result as you've just saw before you. What I'd like to do now is try to do the same thing with the audience, for all of us to sign along with the performers on stage and give you a chance to feel it for yourselves. So I think the best way this is going to work is if everybody stands up and get your arms ready so that you can follow along with us. It was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you, everyone. Everyone to take their seats, please.
So Claudia already introduced you to our last and final speaker, but I want to take a moment just to recognize how amazing Leah is. Leah Katz-Hernandez is the ROTUS, West Wing Receptionist of the United States. And so when visitors come to the White House to meet with President Obama, besides Secret Service, the first person that they will speak with is deaf. She greets every single visitor to the president when they come to the White House. And so their first interaction with the Obama administration is with a deaf individual. Pretty cool. But so I will let Leah, give a few remarks and share her story, but I just wanted to recognize her as an awesome coworker and a member of the administration and friend.
Hello. Hi. Hello. So I want to hug every single one of you. Wow. Just so beautiful. What an amazing performance. I just want to say thank you so much to so many people here today. I mean, it's just been such an important event. First, most importantly, Maria. This has just been a beautiful event. This was her brainchild. Thank you so much. And Molly, your support has just been amazing. Everything worked out so beautifully, so thank you so much. Of course, there have been some very important people in our administration who have supported this event as well. So I want to thank Cecilia Munoz, also Valerie Jarrett, and of course, Roy Austin Jr. Thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you. Also importantly, I want to thank the entire cast for coming here all the way from New York City. I know it's tough to take the time out of your, busy schedule, but to come all the way down here, thank you so much. Just a beautiful, amazing performance. So I am Leah. My position here at the White House is I am the receptionist of the United States, ROTUS. So this is actually my 5th position within the Obama world, so to speak. It's my 3rd here at the White House. So backing all the way up, I started 5 years ago when I was 23 in 2010. I came into the White House here as an intern. I had just graduated Gallaudet University and I got this internship. And I'd never had a job before. It was my first experience ever in public service, and it was here at the White House. It was an amazing, wonderful opportunity. I was thrilled to work for the president, and it was just so special, such an honor. I couldn't even think about it. I was so excited to be here as an intern. So I came into the White House, and the one thing that I didn't expect when I came here was to have so many people I met who, my new colleagues, my new bosses, my new co-interns, my friends I made, so many of those people would be like, oh, yeah. Yeah, remember that deaf woman that was on that TV show, West Wing? I don't know, maybe some of you watched The West Wing. I mean, if you did, you know who I'm talking about, right? So many people kept mentioning this again and again and again. And, this fictional character, Joey Lucas on The West Wing. So our own Marlee Matlin. So many people came up to me and they'd make these comments and references to Joey. It almost became a joke. And they'd be like, hey, yeah, wink, wink, like Joey. And I really appreciated it. It was, all in good humor. But time went on, and, I've been in my career here now for 5 years, and it's the same old thing. Joey, 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 again and again. And sometimes I start to feel a little bit odd. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, she's a fictional character, but I am, in fact, a real person. But okay, things go on. And so then I realized, in my last job interview, which was for the Wing Receptionist, which I succeeded there, I got the job. And so, it's like, wow, I'm really going to work in the West Wing for real. I'd been in the East Wing before, but now I'm really going to be in the West Wing. And at that moment, it really hit me. I realized the real power that is within the arts. And the power that you brought, Marlee, you brought an idea forward. And that idea became real life. And now in real life, there is a deaf woman working in the West Wing. It's not fiction anymore. So I thank you for that. Thank you. Arts made that possible. And that's the power of what you all are doing. And that's the power of having people with disabilities in the arts. And that's the power of deaf talent. So thank you. You are expanding people's minds. You're expanding people's imaginations. And you are making so many things possible that couldn't even be imagined 10 years ago. So thank you. Thank you so much for making all of our jobs possible. And thank you for improving the future. Thank you. And we will continue to celebrate. I love you all.